Dear Rector, Dean of the Faculty of Economics and Administrative Sciences, our distinguished guests from the University of South Africa, academics, researchers, and distinguished guests. On behalf of our university, I would like to welcome you to our centuries-old Hagia Sophia Campus, rich in history and culture, and a testament to the enduring legacy of education and scholarship. Today, we gather to explore the critical topic of continuous auditing for effective use of public resources. And we have distinguished experts and academics to discuss the topic from different angles. Before proceeding with the panel session, I would like to invite Rector of our university, Professor Dr. Nevzat Şimşek, to deliver his keynote speech. Please, Professor.
Difficult to read. Dear participants, we are pleased to host this panel, which was organized to reveal the contributions and positive effect that continuous auditing can provide in the effective use of public resources, and to indicate what needs to be done in the context of new developments. We have gathered at our historical Hagia Sophia Madrasa to raise awareness about fulfilling our university's duties with the responsible management and responsible university approach. Welcome, all of you. Our valuable guest speakers coming from South Africa and my colleagues are with us today to share international knowledge and experience. We would like to thank Lawrence Erasmus, Ilse Morgan, Lokman Gündüz, Turgay Geçer, and Bilal Bağış for their contribution to the presentation to the panel. We also hope that our areas of cooperation will be developed to carry out joint studies, publications, and projects on these issues in the future. Well, we find ourselves in a critical juncture where the Sustainable Development Goals have been declared a global emergency call for all national economies. Simultaneously, strategic decisions and practices for the advancement of public policies driven by artificial intelligence are being implemented worldwide. This is particularly true for countries striving to gain a competitive edge through digital transformation strategies, which have accelerated in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. The creation of the necessary legal infrastructure is underway, underscoring the urgency of our importance of discussion today. However, we see country practices where current performance targets are integrated with sustainable development targets. In Turkey, these developments are closely followed and are taken as basis in the execution of public policies within the framework of the EU harmonization directives. Especially when we experience the adverse effect of climate change, the necessity for all sectors, starting from the public sector, to make measures for the effective use of resources, efficient use of resources, come to the fore, and suggestions for creating the necessary tool for this gain importance. Especially implementing these tools in institutional resource allocation through effectiveness and efficiency, correctly designing business processes, ensuring compliance with the digital business model, and establishing the necessary institutional capacity for early diagnosis and management of risks gain importance as the main determinants. Universities have essential duties in this context. We are honored to organize this meeting within our university with the sense of duty and social responsibility approach. Well, considering the size of public sector within its economic structure, its budget, which is a tool to influence this size, and its practices aimed at providing social benefits, preventing disruptive effects in the use of resources, and developing effective policies to ensure social benefit are essential objectives. When we look at good practice examples in the world, it's observed that e-government implications, various mobile applications, and service delivery based on digitalization are becoming widespread. Considering that the public sector is growing in scale, this necessitates extensive data management, risk-based auditing, and continuous monitoring and controls. There is a need for auditing to manage possible risks in the processing of personal data required for the provision of all public services and to ensure the existence of an infrastructure, robust infrastructure in the field of cyber security. When evaluated from this perspective, more than traditional audit approach to achieve regulatory compliance are required. Instead, there is a need for continuous auditing based on modern approach, utilizing technological opportunities and big data analysis. In this context, switching to reliable database management and integrated reporting infrastructure based on machine learning, deep learning, artificial intelligence-based auditing techniques, and blockchain application is necessary. As we move forward, we eagerly anticipate the insights and experiences that our esteemed guests who are leading the CAPIA project will share. We extend our gratitude to them and wish them every success in their project. We are confident that the discussions from this panel, insights from this panel will contribute to the development of effective public saving measures in our country. Kind regards.
We thank our rector for this keynote speech. Now we move on to our panel session. I would like to invite the moderator of the panel, Associated Professor Sezer Bozkurt Kahyoğlu from Department of Management in İzmir Bakırçay University. And the other panelists, Professor Lawrence Erasmus, Financial Governance Department at University of South Africa. Ilse Morgan, Auditing Department at University of South Africa. Associated Professor Turgay Geçer, Department of Management at our university. And Associated Professor Bilal Bağış, Department of Economics at our university. With that, I hand over the proceedings to our moderator, Professor Kahyoğlu. Thank you.
Our rector, our dean, and very special distinguished participants, either here physically or watching us via digital social media, you are all welcome to our panel session. And we are honored to come together, and we'll be starting to share our all knowledge and to create and contribute more to public sector efficiency, effectiveness, whatever our rector told us to share with the global vision. And I would like to start with our, guests coming from so far away from another continent, imagine from South Africa, to collaborate with us. Hopefully, we can find a way to share our experiences. And I would like to start this fruitful panel discussion with Prof. Lawrence. He is from Financial Governance Department and full of experience in public sector, and will give us the South African experiences depending on the conditions, risks and opportunities related to, let's say, resource management in macro level, so that our colleagues in Turkey can contribute afterwards by, comparing and giving some comments on this. So thank you very much, and floor is yours, Prof. Lawrence.
Prof. Caesar, thank you so much for your invitation, first of all, to host us in this wonderful country of yours. We've seen a lot of Istanbul over the past few days. Your culture and your history is just mind-boggling. I think it's unsurpassed by any other country in the world. And we are overwhelmed by your hospitality, your warmth, and it's an experience that we will certainly never forget. And especially then for the Fatim Sultan Mehmet University for having us here today and be able to, for us to participate in this event. Thank you very, very much. So when Prof. Caesar said to me, we need to speak about public sector resource efficiency, I thought my colleague Ilse Morgan, she's the technical expert, and I wouldn't want to overlap on what she's going to say. So what am I going to do? So I decided, let me provide a general overview of the global and economic situation in South Africa, because we are more or less in the past number of years and decades following the same, we have different circumstances, but the ways in which we try to rectify these in the economy is pretty much the same. And if you can find a certain alignment with what is our situation, then you can perhaps better understand and have insights into your own policies and the directions that your government is taking. But most of all, the center focus will be the efficient use of public resources, which is almost like a panacea. It's a solution to many of the problems that we do have. So having a look, I thought first of all the global economic projections is that the January 2024 International Monetary Fund World Economic Outlook projects global growth for 24 at 3.1%, picking up a bit to 3.2% in 2025. Advanced economies are expected to experience a slight slowdown from 1.6% in 2023 to 1.5% in 2024, followed by a little bit of a recovery to 1.8% in 2025. emerging markets and developing economies are expected to reach 4.1% in 24 before rebounding to 4.2% in 25. Why do I show this? So that we can determine in our country our economic growth rate, whether it's below or above average, where do we put ourselves against the rest of the norms in the world. For South Africa, for us, it is certainly very low. We've been struggling to get past 1% per annum, and there are specific reasons for that, and that's what I want to get to. Having a look at inflation, global headline and core inflation have decelerated sustainably since peaking in 2022. It's still above target levels in most advanced economies, and as you can see, with nearly half of the inflation targeting emerging and developing economies. Now, their projected trajectory entails a decrease in global headline inflation from a recorded 6.8% in 23 to 5.8% in 24, going down to 4.4% in 25, according to the International Monetary Fund. Fortunately for South Africa, we have quite a conservative stance on managing our inflation, so we managed to keep it below 6% per annum. We actually have a target through our Reserve Bank between 3 and 6%, and we are unfortunate that we do keep it within that range. Economic growth trends, where does South Africa rate them? So following the transition to democracy in the early and mid-1990s, there was a lot of optimism, and South Africa experienced a period of robust economic expansion, and in brackets, robust economic expansion between 1999 and 2008. The country saw an impressive, if you look at the wording impressive, annual GDP growth rate of 4%. Significantly, this growth rate lacked that of the emerging markets and other developing countries, which achieved an average annual growth rate of 6.8% during the same period. Now, South Africa's economic growth then took a significant turn following the global financial crisis and has struggled to recover since then. Between 2010 and 2019, GDP growth slowed to 1.7% per annum, and from 2015 onwards, the country has experienced a structural decline in income per capita. And this economic downturn interfered in part by politics and corruption, and resulted then in feeble job creation and decreased labor productivity. So in that decade where other countries have picked up after the financial crisis, there were certain issues that pulled us down, certain issues preventing us from growth. And mainly that resides in our public sector productivity and our use of public resources, whether we can use that efficiently. The period after 2007, it was pivotal in South Africa's macroeconomic trajectory. Two main reasons. Firstly, the crisis triggered a substantial deceleration in growth, from which the country has yet to fully recover. And then secondly, the slowdown has a profound impact on our fiscal policy, leading to a more than twofold increase in the country's debt to GDP ratio and a deterioration in its creditworthiness. Consequently, South Africa has been running fiscal deficits for an extended period, exacerbating its economic challenges. The question is, then why could South Africa not recover at the same rate as other emerging economies? And we argue that because of persistent and deepening supply-side constraints caused by, amongst others, deteriorated public sector productivity and corruption, was what kept us back. So acute efficiencies is critical in critical infrastructure such as provision of electricity, transportation systems entailing freight rail, ports, road networks, passenger rail services, water and sanitation facilities, and security services have markedly failed over the past 2 decades. I suppose I can speak about this for quite some time, but in the past 10 to 15 years, due to corruption, low work ethic, low production, inefficient use of public resources, we have lost our railway systems. We have economic migrants dismantling our cabling, our electric cables, dismantling our railway infrastructure, taking it for scrap metal. With a corrupt law enforcement, they get away with it. There's no political will. Transport then shifts to the roads. The big trucks then demolish the roads. Then the potholes don't get fixed. So it's a general breakdown of infrastructure that affects the economy, rises the cost of getting products to the market. Our ports have also been declared some of the worst ports in the world, where we have ships lying in wait for a couple of weeks before they can offload, affecting exports, affecting imports. No country can operate like that and have economic growth and development. And all of it because of inefficient use of public resources. And I'm sketching this to say that that is the big picture. That is the end result of not having an efficient public sector and the use of public resources. The decline in these factors of productivity is estimated to have accounted for almost 50% of the growth deceleration since the global financial crisis, mostly because of the inefficient then utilization of public resources. If we look at our employment, due to the limited economic growth, South Africa's unemployment rate increased to 32.1% in the fourth quarter of 23. The broad unemployment rate, which includes people that totally stopped looking for work, was at 41.1% at the end of 2023. If you compare that to the growing working age population, South Africa has a challenge with job creation, translating it into one of the lowest employment ratios globally. So a high burden is placed upon the youth population, and they have a very high unemployment rate amongst the 15 to 24-year-olds, which increased to almost 60%, 59.4% in the fourth quarter of 23. So you can think for yourself, 60% of youth are unemployed, no hope, no studying, and this is a recipe for disaster. Youth without a job prospect or skills spell disaster for future economic and political stability. So efficiency and effective use of public resources will go a long way in mitigating this situation for us. So what's our fiscal framework? How do we deal with this situation? A recent study on the quantification of multipliers by the Financial and Fiscal Commission of South Africa, up to recently, I served my 5 years as a commissioner on this commission, and my term ended at the end of March in 2024. They did a study that revealed that government expenditure has a negligible impact on the economic growth, and it is directly related to the inefficient use of public resources. The multiplier effect is when the economy creates more value or activity from the money that the government is spending in the economy. The results were that the government expenditure multiplier is 0.01, whereas the cumulative multiplier over a 20-year period was 0.04, which is almost insignificant, and it's not impactful, given the binding constraints and the lack of productivity that we have in the community, or in the economy, my apology. So the results derived from the Financial and Fiscal Commission quantitative analysis stress the insignificance of fiscal multipliers and how fiscal multipliers trend to then hinder economic growth by escalating the cost of capital and crowding out private sector. Hence, the conclusion was that the current growth challenges faced by the South African or economy cannot be resolved by expansionary fiscal policy, but by fiscal consolidation and reallocation to yield efficiency. Now, public sector austerity measures refers to government policy aimed at reducing spending or increasing revenue. And it's pretty much the same as fiscal consolidation that we've been following. Fiscal consolidation is just a bit of a broader definition, a bit more policies and some additional measures. But the goal of austerity measures is often to achieve fiscal discipline, restore confidence in government finances, and promote economic stability in the long term. So if we look at the reasons for austerity measures, reducing budget deficits, if it's implemented, it's to cut spending and increase revenues to reduce the deficit. Debt management, high levels of public debt can be unsustainable. So austerity measures can aim to reduce the debt burden so that it does not then result in the end in a debt crisis where the debt cannot be serviced. Now, I read up a bit on Turkey and you don't really have a debt burden, but then your borrowings are mostly in foreign currency. So if there's inflation, if there's a decrease in the value of the lira, then it also becomes a problem. Restoring economic confidence during periods of economic turmoil or following a financial crisis, austerity measures can signal to investors and international markets that a government is committed to fiscal responsibility and thereby restoring confidence in the economy. Meeting conditions of financial aid, I think we are all familiar with this. Countries that receive financial aid or bailouts from the international organizations like the IMF and the European Union often need to implement austerity to show that they are willing to address the underlying fiscal issues that they have been struggling with. To control inflation, in some cases, austerity measures can be used to reduce inflation. So by cutting down public spending, the government can help cool down an overheated economy. To improve credit ratings, it demonstrates a commitment to fiscal discipline, thereby reducing borrowing costs, and economic rebalancing. Austerity can be part of a broader strategy to reduce or restructure rather the economy. But it's not all good. There's a balance in all economic measures, and your austerity measures do have a negative impact. Some negative impacts that are being criticized is economic contraction. Cutting spending during an economic downturn can lead to reduced economic growth and higher unemployment. Social impact, where funding for social programs like healthcare and education is reduced, it affects the most vulnerable of the population. And short-term pain for long-term gain. While aiming for long-term fiscal health, austerity can result in short-term economic hardship, cost of living crises, and social unrest. So the negative impact can certainly be reduced by economical, efficient, effective, and equitable use of public resources. So to give an alternative perspective, what is the alternative then of austerity measures? Depending on the political ideology, and some economists and policymakers may advocate for an expansionary fiscal policy or for stimulus measures to counter a cost of living crisis. And this approach is more often associated with progressive or liberal economic policies, which emphasize government intervention to stimulate the economy, reduce inequality, and support public welfare. And this might include, again, increased public spending, tax cuts for lower income groups, and investment and infrastructure in social programs. However, if an expansionary fiscal policy does not produce a positive multiplier effect, it can worsen the country's fiscal position and bring it closer to a fiscal cliff. The risks of an ineffective expansionary policy is increased deficits and debt. There has to be a positive multiplier effect. It crowds out private investment, and excessive government spending, especially if not matched by an increase in output, can lead to inflation. It can also undermine market conditions. Persistent deficits and rising debt levels can undermine investor confidence in a country's fiscal stability and can lead to higher borrowing costs. So while expansionary fiscal policy can be a powerful tool for stimulating economic growth, its success depends heavily on achieving a positive multiplier effect. In other words, you have to get bang for your buck. You have to get value for your money, for your public spending. If such policies fail to stimulate sufficient economic activity, they can make fiscal imbalances worse. So, in researching a bit on what I was going to talk about today, I came upon an interesting piece on public sector productivity and economic growth. Now, public sector efficiency has become increasingly relevant for policymakers in a constrained fiscal space and dwindling public funding sources. And also, stakeholders require increasingly more accountability for the use of public money. So it was very interesting for me that in the 2023 World Bank report on worldwide governance indicators, South Africa and Turkey have the exact same score, 60.38, for government effectiveness. Government
Discuss about this.
Government effectiveness captures the perceptions of quality of public services, the quality of the civil service, and the degree of independence from political pressures, the quality of policy formulation and implementation, and the credibility of the government's commitment to such policies. So, the effective use of public resources is crucial for achieving desired social and economic outcomes, to maintain public trust and ensuring fiscal sustainability. And I've listed the key principles that you would find in literature regarding public resource efficient spending. And those are accountability, to ensure that all financial activities and decisions are open and accessible to the public and stakeholders. Public officials must be responsible for their actions and decisions with clear lines of accountability. If we look at efficiency, maximize the output and outcomes for each unit of input, thus avoiding waste and ensuring value for money. And obviously, this is where internal auditing comes in with your performance audits that can be performed. To use resources in a way that achieves the best possible outcome with the least amount of expenditure. Effectiveness, to ensure that the use of resources is aligned with clearly defined goals and objectives. In South Africa, we have a performance budgeting system. We have to set our goals right at the start already of our budgeting term, and it is audited whether we do achieve those goals or not. And recommendations are being made, and it's a revolving process, a continuous process to see whether we can then improve on the goals that we reach. So focus then on achieving tangible, positive outcomes that address public needs and priorities. Equity, to allocate resources in a manner that is fair and just, addressing the needs of all segments of the population, especially the vulnerable and the disadvantaged. Unfortunately, we need to deal with issues such as political parties that would bypass communities that did not vote for them, even doesn't matter how vulnerable they are. We saw that during the COVID period. And these are things that needs to be picked up by internal audit, reported on, and see to it that the necessary actions are being taken. We need to ensure that all individuals and groups have access to public services and benefits. Sustainability, consider the long-term impacts of resource use and ensure that decisions support sustainable development and intergenerational equity. Use of resources in an environmentally responsible way and minimizing the negative impacts on the environment. Transparency, provide clear, accurate and timely information about resource allocation, usage and outcomes to the public and stakeholders, and engage citizens and stakeholders in decision-making processes to ensure their needs and preferences are considered. We do have what we call an IDP, an Independent Development Plan. Every 5-year cycle, our municipalities will involve the communities when they come up with this plan and they determine their strategic objectives. Whether it always works as it should, it's a question, but at least we have such a program in place. In terms of
Independent Development Plan, is that true?
That's right, the IDP, that's what we call. Integrity, adhere to the high ethical standards in the management and the use of public resources, avoiding corruption and fraud. Unfortunately, we are not there yet, but I feel that internal auditing has a huge role to play in ensuring that corrupt activity is identified, reported on, and recommendations are provided for these actions to be taken seriously and to be acted upon, that they be consequence management. Participation involves stakeholders, including the public, in the planning, implementation, and evaluation of public programs and projects, fostering collaboration between different levels of government, the private sector, and civil society. Innovation, to learn from best practice and innovations in public resource management from other contexts and continuously seek ways to improve. Be flexible and adaptive in response to changing circumstances and emerging challenges. And finally, performance management. Implement robust systems for monitoring and evaluating the use of resources, assessing both outputs and outcomes. Use performance data to inform decision-making and continuously improve policies and practices. And what I've just mentioned here is pretty much what we have implemented in South Africa through legislation, through the systems that we have implemented. But at the end, it is human beings that drives the system, and it is for up to, in my mind, internal auditing to provide the assurances that these systems work the way they should and that we get the benefit that they are supposed to provide us with. So to conclude, by adhering to these principles to effectively use public resources, governments can maximize the benefits derived from public resources and achieve the social and economic objectives more successfully. I mean, if all of this work as it should in theory, then we will be in such a good position of getting the most out of the money that is being spent from the government coffers that austerity measures might not even be necessary, because we will find that we will get the necessary investment in the economy, the necessary employment, and the cost of living will rise as a result of the right mindset of civil servants to be dedicated to their work and to be frugal in the spending and the use of their resources. I've actually had a couple of examples here. I don't know whether I should mention them, but really just to say that in the end, there needs to be a culture of honesty, and people need to have the will to serve. Otherwise, all these principles that we are mentioning is just lip service. We have people should come to the fore and use hotlines and report poor service delivery, and where they see people are not providing the services and their work as they should. So I think let me stop there. I don't want to to mention bad examples, because my country is great and we're all working towards a great country. So I'm going to leave it for my colleague to rather than speak on how continuous auditing can then support the effective use of public resources. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Lawrence Erasmus, for giving us so valuable information about South Africa, similarities, mostly the similarities and differences between Turkey and South Africa. And now we have the global economic projection, economic growth rate, inflation, talking about starting from 90s to nowadays. But the key issue is the labor productivity and the need for efficient use of resources. This is a common problem for all of the countries. And in that respect, when we look at the list, it's a long list. I try to take notes not to miss any of them. But the solution is unique, I believe. It's the internal auditing. So that's why we jointly started public sector internal audit based on new technology, specifically artificial intelligence and blockchain technologies, so that we can monitor and give assurance, reasonable assurance for the stakeholders, so that public resources can be protected, and we can increase our country's performance, efficiency performance, and the index, and all kinds of strategic objectives. To make it more responsible, we actually need this. As our rector, Professor Nevzat Şimşek, mentioned, being responsible in all aspects, so either organizational or individually or at the country level, everybody should be feeling responsible to make it more sustainable. So the solution is related to international best practice, which is namely internal auditing in public sector. So after saying this, we will have the details about how to implement such a system and make it work in different, public sector institutions, entities, needs, citizen expectations. It's a long list to prevent corruption mainly and make it efficient in the public sector. Ilse Morgan, with her expert knowledge coming from the field, and now as a member of University of South Africa, lecturer, but at the same time a PhD candidate for our project. We are proud of our CAPIA project, Continuous Auditing for Public Sector Internal Auditing, and we have now Turkish public sector internal auditors with us. If you show your hands, we are proud of them, and thank you very much for attending our session, supporting us. You are here to collaborate, and thank you for all the we call Ustads, our masters. You are more than welcome, and we are here to serve our countries. Either it's South Africa or Turkey, other Turkey, doesn't matter. We don't have any other place to go. It's our universe. We need to take care of our planet, resources, and please, Ilse Morgan, floor is yours. Either you stand up or sit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Caesar, for the introduction, and welcome, esteemed colleagues and everybody attending today. And thank you to the Rector and the Dean and the Fatim Sultan Mehmet University, and also my project leaders, Professor Lawrence and Professor Caesar, for their support throughout my studies. With this valuable support, I can just hopefully succeed. So what I want to talk to you about today is how to achieve accountability and transparency in the public sector. It seems like an impossible dream, because how will we ever get there? I mean, throughout the years, that is one of the most important things to achieve is consequence management, ethical conduct, ethical leadership. How will we change that? And that is my dream. So let's see if I can try to do that. So throughout the world, there are a lot of governance codes, rule-based and principle-based, but I envisage an outcomes-based governance framework, and something that can be adopted throughout the world, because we live in such an integrated world. Everything is so connected. We all use the same platforms and same social media and same WhatsApp and everything. So we are actually so connected, and with globalization, we need a global governance framework, I think, especially seeing how important transparency and accountability is. So the things that I want to discuss with you today is explain continuous auditing a bit, and why there is a lack of implementation. And then I'm going to touch on some technology and innovation that is available to us and how I think we can maybe adopt it differently. And then I'm going to talk about auditing in the digital age. So we have the traditional auditing. We all know this, how it evolved to continuous auditing and continuous monitoring, and how we ultimately want continuous assurance, but we do not want internal auditing to take over the role of management in terms of continuous monitoring. They must still be accountable for their side of monitoring, and the assurance providers continuous auditing, but ultimately we want a complete continuous assurance, so that there's proper oversight and that management have insight from this information, both from the monitoring side and from the auditing side. And then ultimately we want foresight, because we cannot actually look at historical data anymore. It's useless. What can we do with it? We want to know what's going to happen long term. So through the real-time and continuous monitoring, management could be then more proactive and pragmatic. We need a more pragmatic approach to ensure accountability and consequence management, to identify and assess all operational risks. We know how things are developing so quickly, especially considering AI. And I looked at this display that we had here this morning when we walked in. It's just artificial intelligence, and I felt so welcome. But actually, I thought, maybe we can learn a lot here today. But we as assurance providers want to give assurance on all aspects in an organization, not just financial, not just operational, not just in terms of risks. We want to give value to the complete organization, so that there is more ethical leadership, that there is accountability, that there is consequence management. And that is a very difficult task for the internal auditors, because we weren't seen that valuable a few years ago. So we want to contribute more to that effect. So looking at continuous auditing, we can save up to 40 to 60% of time that we've previously wasted on analyzing the data ourselves. So that function we must now totally give over to the continuous auditing software and AI, and that I think we must think totally different on not focusing on transactional data, etc. That must happen automatically, because we want to, as assurance providers, spend more time in assessing the impact and assessing the outcomes of operations in the long-term effect thereof. So we also need to focus our attention more towards qualitative data instead of previously only quantitative data. And AI and blockchain and all these other new tools coming through every day can help us with these repetitive tasks. So considering all the benefits of continuous auditing, there's no other option but to implement that. So we have to start somewhere, and I found in some departments they haven't used it or started with it at all. They are like still paper-based, and that is especially in South Africa. So there are departments that has evolved, but then there are others that's totally not started with it. So in this new digital age, we have to evolve as well as internal auditors. Let's quickly just go through the benefits. So we don't have any once-off assessments anymore. It can all happen real time. To identify any potential weaknesses or gaps, they're not anomalies, red flags, early problem detection for management and for the internal auditors. And so that's our early warning system of any problems that we can address quickly. Then other benefits is to adapt quickly to regulatory changes. So if we look at historical data and there's new developments, it's irrelevant. So we as internal auditors must also instantly be aware of new regulatory changes especially in terms of the compliance audits. We can optimize our resources. It can improve transparency and accountability, but also in the internal auditing section, because we also need to be held accountable. If a company fails, where were the auditors? Couldn't they have provided insight earlier? So, and obviously we can audit 100% of all data, not only transactions, but all data. Then what is the lack of implementation? Why are some departments not using it yet? Because sometimes some departments work in silos, it's fragmented, systems are not connected. So we must find a way to align the systems, to import data from different platforms to one central area where the data can be analyzed. Another reason for the lack of implementation is there's inadequate or oversight or monitoring functions. Some management need to account to information used for reporting needs to be transparent, accurate, complete, timely and valid. So if management do not support us in terms of an oversight and monitoring perspective, it's no use for the auditors to adopt that principles. Then there's limited effectiveness of transparency and accountability. If certain information is kept private and secret within an organization, how can we analyze the information if we don't have access to it? So transparency will become more important, but obviously the information available to selected decision makers, not to everybody. So that can be considered. Then inadequate compliance requirements, where all laws and regulations and standards are not considered throughout the audit process. Sometimes, auditors are not even aware of some of the regulations that affect the process that they are auditing, because they're not really informed about how that operation functions. And so they do not consider all the laws and regulations. Or data can be unavailable. That is also still a big problem. And staff competencies, we have to be up to date. We have to make sure that we attend as many as possible opportunities in enhancing our knowledge in this. Lack of real-time data. So we have structured and unstructured data. So it's important that we have access to real-time data. Consider in an organization where a product or a service is reviewed and there is a very bad or negative review of a service, but the internal auditors don't know about it. But that external data is very valuable because there's a risk and it needs to be addressed as soon as possible. And obviously then the data privacy concerns, but I think there new laws and regulations will need to come in.
In that sense, can we say that, since our masters here, auditors, we define our audit universe internally, used to be, now including the external data. In addition to your internal processes and, all the data coming from your internal processes, you need to consider external data about how people treat your services, how people like or dislike your services, how you approach and, how you either impress or, create any kind of disappointment for the citizens is an issue for internal auditors to monitor and give assurance for the executives. Thank you.
Thank you. I see for the future that not only Uber drivers or other service providers will get reviews, but I think management should sometimes also get to be reviewed, and then we can have some transparent information to see who's performing and not performing. But that will not happen easily. But let's see. So these factors make it difficult for us to achieve sufficient assurance. So that's something that we will first need to be addressed. But luckily, technology creates possibilities for us to simplify these processes. And then due to these, for example, reviews or social media information that comes through, that is automatic reviews. So your company can fail if that data comes through and we as management don't address that. Because it's instant feedback on the services that you have provided. And so then we can ultimately improve systems because we have that feedback. Digitalization and AI creating a total new model of governance that we need to adapt to. We don't have any other choice. We will need to adapt to that and be more agile and responsive.
Can we say a digital business model?
Governance model?
Sustainability,
yes, always,
and digital business model,
governance
for public
model
sector, and including the governance as an umbrella.
Yes,
to make it good governance available for all kinds of processes, services, and creating satisfaction. Otherwise, people will be upset about this and giving dislikes via social media.
Yes.
And now it's available, considering all your organizations, my masters, you are all here. All of the organizations have their social media address available, and people can leave their comments. Anybody among us started auditing such comments about their organizations? External comments? No?
What is
Not yet.
That output and that effective they don't like your service. So that's the question.
Yeah.
They dislike you, but not effective.
So,
This is quite important. That's why I would like to open a parenthesis. It's an issue.
Because we are afraid bad comments.
yes.
We can
Thank you.
have microphone for we are going to share our experiences, make it dynamic, to useful for our masters, so that when you go to your organizations, you can contribute more. Otherwise, we come and, just respect each other. It's not the case. We shouldn't do that. So you are welcome to make comments, please.
External comments from people, as you said, may be good, but as we internal editors, we afraid bad comments from people, from auditees. Maybe.
Do you prefer not seeing and, ignoring, or taking into your audit plan?
Yeah,
Because it can be included in your risk universe to analyze their even emotions. We have sentiment analysis available, and we can use many tools, ready tools, so that you can prepare reports for executives and all stakeholders, and to improve efficiency, effectiveness. I should start reading from Prof. Lawrence Goodlist. You mentioned top 10 issues: accountability, efficiency, effectiveness, equity, sustainability, transparency, integrity, participation, which is all related to, good communication with our stakeholders, innovation in connection to audit. Yes?
For the question.
And performance.
I'm not coming from the auditing department. I have once worked there, but the question is that if you have a private company.
As far as I know, you are the decision maker.
Once upon a time, in the past, assume that you run a private company and your customers do not like your service or do not like your employees. There's a problem and they disclose this in the social media. Then as a boss or as an owner, you do whatever it takes, right? But in the case of a government service, if they do complain about your inspectors, masters or whatever, so what's the net effectiveness, whatever? No one is the government gonna kick you out of the service or fire you. It's not possible.
I didn't mean the internal, comments, but I mean the external data, because it's still available. Internal data still we are using.
Net result is what is that?
Would you like to say?
I would like to respond to that because it's a universal problem. The acting on the recommendations of internal audit. And it's an environment that you would have to create for internal audit to be independent and to be able to operate without fear or favor. And we find that it has a lot to do with the appointment of internal auditors, how it is structured within the governance system of a public sector entity. Usually it's taken up in legislation, so it starts at the top. To position the internal audit function to report to an oversight body, such as the audit committee, not to management, and also for internal audit not to be appointed by management or to be fired by management, but surely but purely to be evaluated, their plans, their charter, by the audit committee, in order to render them independent and to be able to, without fear, make recommendations where it is necessary.
That's important. Without fear.
And then you need, on top of that, you need regulation, legislation that gives those recommendations teeth. So in other words, it's not a recommendation that can be pushed under the carpet, but there needs to be acted upon. We are still looking into that for internal auditing in South Africa, but where we have made great strides on the external auditing side is where external audit, where they have an audit opinion and make recommendations, where there was a material irregularity, which we call it's irregular expenditure, where there was a financial loss. If the head of a department or an entity does not take the necessary actions, consequence management, and recover the funds where it can, a certificate of debt is issued where the head of that institution then needs to pay that money back. So there needs to be consequences to force these recommendations to be acted on. And that's the only way we can have that accountability.
In Turkey, we have a quality assurance program for our audit departments. And in that sense, auditing the quality of audit should be transparent, accountable, so that the process is useful for all the stakeholders and protecting internal auditors as well. You know, in this way, it will not be possible to hide anything under the carpet. We have a saying in Turkish, similar saying, halının altına süpürmek. So if you want to make any comment in Turkish, Türkçe yorum yapmak isteyen varsa kendini daha iyi ifade etmek için you are welcome. Please do not hesitate because we are here to share our experiences with you. We are here for you. So that's a friendly announcement from our side. So yes, thank you. Yeah.
Extremely short comment. Sometimes, especially for big corporations, from what I have seen in the US, in Europe, sometimes companies, they also hire some customers to do the auditing and write some comments, right? And they even pay for that. And I don't know how much that is contributing to the internal auditing in general. Maybe that could also be thought about. A little different than social media posts, but
I mean, it is implemented in private industry, but I'm not sure about public sector, whether it is used as a, approach. Yeah.
Yes.
You heard about our GMAR and BMAR systems available. You can easily write your complaints and register it and fully informed and follow up, and you get all the responsible way of, listening to the parties, preparing a report, and then the outcome will be shared for the register. So,
Example,
yeah.
Whenever you have a complaint, you can send an email, call, or whatever.
And it's taken seriously. We know that. Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Yeah.
Under the president now, before Prime Minister, any complaint like that has taken very seriously. and there will be conflict.
Yeah.
And that's really effective. Right?
Yes.
Good to know.
Thank you. To get back to implementing continuous assurance, so I think it's good for the internal audit section to just revisit all the key performance indicators that comes from the strategic objectives from the organization. So obviously we start there and with the key risk indicators so that we stay relevant if something has changed. And then from there on, we can automate the audit process. We must make sure that our staff are obviously trained, but we must remember to still document this audit process to still have adequate evidence of the whole process in the audit trail that we followed, and we must still make sure that we effectively report, because we will get a lot of exception reports and a lot of data and whatever. So we must adequately package that it is still the evidence of the whole process that we followed, that we can explain ourselves. Even we can't leave it to automation or AI to keep record of everything. So that is very important. So if we look at the audit process in the digital age, we still have our planning and our fieldwork reporting and the follow-up. So in this slide, I just indicated the different steps that we still need to follow in terms of planning, still your risk assessment, your annual audit plan that comes from your risk assessment. So you select your auditee. But now with continuous auditing, you don't need to audit one section per month or per year. You can audit them simultaneously. But if there's ad hoc audits, that can still happen. We need to still communicate the scope and still understand the process. We can't leave that to AI. But with ChatGPT, it's actually very easy to create the audit programs. Like in 30 seconds, you can have your audit program.
Let me ask whether they start using ChatGPT. Any masters? Başlayan var mı? Kullanmaya başlayan?
Yeah, so that can be used very effectively. So in planning, then what happens?
Innovative auditor.
So in the planning phase, we can have the continuous risk assessment. Now, how I see that is, for example, your risk register to be available to all decision makers, but the same risk register, you have it on SharePoint. That's just a basic example of how, if you want to start up using it. So if something changes, you update the risk register in real time, and it's available for everybody to see. So it's continuous. A continuous control monitoring that can happen in real time. You can auto-generate the checklists for your planning, very easy. So we can spend a bit less time on the planning, I think, and we can share all our working papers to everybody in the team. We can share it with external audit or whatever. And then in terms of field work, for example, we can identify and still observe issues, compare the processes and the controls, the tested transactions with the continuous auditing software. So we automate the audit tasks. We will more oversee the process while it's running in the background. We can extract the data. We can populate, like, for example, the risk registers and our findings. So our working papers reflect at the same time our risk assessment plus our findings. Everything is combined and linked. And I consider it as sort of a blockchain effect. If something changes in one node or space, it's updated everywhere and available for everybody. So then in audit reporting, there we can produce very nice audit reports using artificial intelligence. We can have intelligent reporting, visualization, we can use very effectively. Okay, I'll need to go. You can look at these slides later on. We can use dashboards very effectively in Excel. Okay, now this slide is very important for me because I see the continuous auditing process is from our resources. We evaluate economy, efficiency, effectiveness, but also the quantitative and the qualitative aspects of effectiveness. The impact, that is where internal audit will become very valuable, because previously we focused more on comparing inputs with outputs and financial data, but I also want us to, at the same time, look at operations like efficiency, effectiveness, economy, but also considering the risks in real time, to consider the control monitoring real time, compliance testing in real time, check the ethics and equity. So that is where the role of internal audit will focus more on the outcomes and the impact. That is just the risks that we consider. It's so vast. Updating our risk registers, compliance, we have to check everything. I have to run quickly through these slides. So ultimately, this is how auditing procedure looks in theory. So we have our criteria, which is the policies or the regulations or the smart contracts, what should be. And we compare that with what is the condition. But that and the effect, this process will happen with the software. So then eventually looking at the cause and making recommendations, that is when we need to focus more on the long-term impact and consequences. So the rest of it will happen through software. But still considering risks, still considering compliance and ethics. It's very important. We know the 5 C's of internal audit. To improve systems, again, let's just see what is important to achieve accountability and transparency. I think is participation. We get back to the reviews. And that all decision makers participate and that everybody has the same information. So on that side, we have the continuous monitoring, the management side, and continuous auditing. And I think we can achieve that with AI and machine learning and blockchain to get that, to close the gap, to achieve accountability, to have more transparency. This is just the different types of accountabilities. We must remember that we're not just accountable in our workplace, but also in your professional life, as say a CPA or a CIA, on your managerial level, compliance level, your political, there's lots of different types of accountability. So not just only in your organization. So again, this is an important slide to see how we can achieve accountability on all levels, from the audience, everybody that's available, even the public, to the impact and what types of transparency we need to achieve.
Thank you very much for mentioning this, because everybody is talking about being accountable. But when it comes to proving, preparing, reporting, please, my masters, consider and focus on this approach so that you don't miss any part and make it fully ready for, giving reasonable assurance for the stakeholders.
Yeah.
And this will be available in our book coming very soon via Taylor and Francis. And we are ready to share relevant chapters afterwards. Thank you.
Yes. So to achieve the accountability, there's answerability firstly and enforceability. And the problem comes in enforceability, the consequence management aspect. So these slides will be available to you. So we have to address this issue on all levels and all processes, all inputs, and obviously, again, the impact is important. I will not spend a lot of time on this to see how the participation links to accountability, how people, if they are not happy with something, how they can address that, and eventually you achieve ethical leadership and good governance. But it's all linked. If you don't have transparency and participation, you cannot achieve accountability, and you have to have quality information, reliable information. So I think hopefully we can achieve that. And their AI, again, and data analytics will help us with the analysis of this information. And I thank you for the time.
So we would like to thank you, Ilse Morgan, for sharing valuable information. And now, if we are talking about the resources, number one resources is money. So it's the finance industry and the fintechs should be regulated and monitored. Risk management is the key issue for all stakeholders again. Even if we are talking about a private bank, still you serve as public responsibility. In that respect, now our esteemed panel speaker, Hocam, will start and give practices, global and the Turkish case, I believe. Thank you.
Okay. For continuous auditing, we need continuous money. We make money from fintech. Can we may monetize fintech, some financial services via fintech? First of all, what is the fintech? Fintech is a business model based on digitalized financial services. The emergence of fintech is the result of evolution of technology and finance. Fintech is a new form of business that is challenging conventional structures, revolutionizing financial industry, and enriching financial products. Fintech enables the e-commerce commercialization of technology via the interpretation of financial services. Fintech is a combination of finance, technology, and regulation. Fintech has the potential to change a wide range of financial services from basic concept to market launch, including accounts, banking accounts or payment accounts, credit cards, loans, payments, money transfers, investments, and insurance. Emphasizing a user-centric approach, fintech delivers a personalized and integrated digital experience, thereby facilitating access to financial services. Additionally, fintech services are more cost-effective than traditional financial methods, offering an economic alternative. Fintech designs and provides financial services in compliance with international security standards and domestic or local regulatory requirements. Beyond the finance sector, fintech holds the potential to add value across various industries such as commerce, education, health, tourism, transport, manufacturing, by developing innovative financial products. The main characteristics of fintech, the first one is low profit margin. Fintech is a business that operates with low profit margin but has the potential to become profitable if it reaches a large user base. The goal of fintech is to integrate technology into financial services, reducing operational cost and reaching target user base. Therefore, fintech should consider offering distinctive and innovative products and managing its cost effectively. The second one is scalability. Fintech grows up. As fintech grows up, it should continuously improve its operational and technical capabilities. One way to achieve this through scalability, which is the ability to maintain marginal cost as the number of users increases. As you see, the Spotify reached 1 million users in 150 days. Instagram reached 1 million users in 75 days. But ChatGPT reached 1 million users in just 5 days. This is the power of fintech. The next one is marginal cost. Low margin and scalability can be provided only by marginal cost. Marginal cost means that the total sales increase 100 units, while total cost does not increase 100 units. The next one is asset light. Fintech invests less in physical premises and fixed assets and offer its products on digital platforms. This gives them remarkable flexibility and speed, which is turn allows them to redirect their limited financial resources to high value added areas instead of investing in fixed assets. As you see, Uber, the largest or biggest taxi company in the world, but Uber has no taxi. Airbnb is the largest hotel company in the world, but it has no hotel or any room. The next one is innovative characteristic. The most important characteristic of fintech is the ever innovating. This helps fintech maintain its competitive edge and improve a variety of activities, including product design, user experience, internal process, and security structure. As you see, Klarna, a Sweden company, created BNPL sector. BNPL sector is targeting to reach $3.2 trillion by 2030. It's a new created sector by fintech. The next one is flexibility. Flexibility is a critical success factor for a fintech. In ever-changing regulatory environment and highly competitive marketplace, the ability to adapt to changing regulation is critical. The operating cycle of fintech is also a business model that digitalizing financial products by using internal and external resources. The inputs of fintechs are qualified information and financial products. By synthesizing these inputs, fintech produce new qualified information and new fintech products. Internal cycle. Fintech is a global organization. The fintech is a digital organization or digital organism created in the mind of entrepreneur and living in digital systems. Fintech starts with an innovative idea. The main goal of fintech is develop and refine this idea into an excellent or brilliant product. Fintech can create a new product by offering qualified internal data. Fintech can improve its own products with a better value proposition. External cycle, fintech transforms complex technologies into less complex financial experiences. Fintech can interpret financial products by processing data from external resources. This data can be repackaged with more valuable propositions, which in turn can be used to develop and improve financial fintech products. The stakes, all holders of fintech, banks, financial institutions, and technology companies. fintech can work closely with banks, financial institutions, and technology companies to redesign banking and financial products, including bank accounts, payment cards, loans, payments, money transfers, investments, and insurance services. Public is a priceless source of information covering a variety of areas, including taxation, social security, invoicing, payment systems, interest rates, banking system, etc. Private sector plays an important role in the value chain of fintech. Companies involved in e-commerce, retail, transport, education, health, manufacturing, or tourism sector can contribute to fintech by providing qualified data on products and services. The fintech interaction with public sector, there are two options. The first one is improve the existing public service and to generate a new public service. To improve the existing public service, a case study or case of e-invoicing system in Turkey, e-invoicing system in the public sector represents a significant step towards modernizing financial transactions, enhancing transparency, and improving efficiency. By adopting e-invoicing, government can streamline their procurement processes, reduce administrative burden, and ensure more timely and accurate payments to their suppliers. Proposed improvements, missing points in from fintech perspective in Turkish e-invoicing system. The first one is to define unique ID for each goods and services, to standardize name, group, and units of measurement for goods and services, to fix value-added tax rates for each goods and services, to track distribution channels, intermediaries from production, from producers to end users, to track movements of goods between regions, cities, sectors, to monitor seasonal cycles of changes in production, to manage national inventory system, to monitor pricing behavior of merchants, and monitor the inventory levels by merchants in that region, and to audit all invoices using AI services. The next one is to generate a new public service proposal for public price listing. Maintaining price stability is an economy is one of the most important issues. Price stability and general price level must be kept under control. Making inflation visible can be an important step to solve it. This model is backward looking for price changes, inflation. The main idea of proposal is that merchants should publish their prices of all goods and services for end users on their digital platforms. The data sets of listing of prices of goods and services in digital platforms will contribute to developing fintech products in neobanking, AI applications, payment services, payment cards, lending, e-commerce, and insurance. This model, the benefits of this model for consumers can monitor the price of goods and services and easily compare price movements by periods, type, and merchants. Consumers can compare listed prices and prices in financial documents, and continuous audit function can be created by utilizing customers. Consumers can compare price changes and pricing behavior of merchants. The benefits for public sector: public authorities can monitor, control, and intervene in pricing process of merchants. Public authorities can check the listed prices and prices in the financial documents. This is important to detect misleading pricing, prevent unfair trade practices and tax losses. Public authorities can develop national standards for name, group, and units of measurements for goods and services. Public authorities can monitor the price of goods and services and their changes based on regional, sectoral, and seasonal factors. And finally, public authorities can protect the rights of consumers. Thank you very much.
Professor Turgay Geçer shared very critical, valuable information with us. And I would like to ask my masters whether they have in their organizations smart cards available in various purposes, and either they audited or not until now. And for the saying, we as auditors, we have a saying, follow the money. You know, if you cannot find the trace and just lose the trace of the money, then you are in trouble. And in digital and with the assistance of such smart fintech systems can be a solution. And I would like to hear some good practices from our Turkish public sector or the internal auditors, representative of their organizations. Anybody proudly would like to share? Because money management should be transferred to treasury management, and using advanced treasury management techniques, which includes all types of fintech infrastructure, artificial intelligence, blockchain, because we are entering such a period, hocam, crypto world, cryptocurrencies, and will be coming soon. And what do you think about this? Before we move to another valuable speaker, I would like to get some comments, please. Thank you. Mikrofon. Üstadlar. Türkçe.
İşinizi kaybetmekten.
Bizler denetçi olarak risk evrenini tanımlarken ilk parasal, finansal konulardan başlarız ve kamu kaynaklarının özellikle de kaybı, bir kayıp varsa bunun mutlaka raporlanması gerekir. Burada da hani varlıkların korunması artı parasal hareketler diyelim. Hesap hareketleri olabilir, süreçler olabilir, satın alma, anahtar kelimeler. İlk buradan başlarız. Yani para girişi ve para çıkışı, bunların kontrol altına alınması ve mümkünse gerçek zamanlı olarak izlenmesi çok çok önemli. Acaba kurumlarınızdaki durum nasıl? Frekans olarak hani para hareketleri ne sıklıkta izleniyor? İç denetim ekiplerinin ajandasında hangi sırada yer alıyor? Kaynakların etkin kullanılması, satın alma faaliyetleri. Mikrofon isteyen Cem Üstad. Halim Üstad.
Merhaba.
Next.
Zaten yani parasal konular sürekli denetleniyor zaten. Satın almalar olsun, ödemeler olsun. Hem biz denetliyoruz hem de dış denetçiler denetliyor. O açıdan bizim için de denetim evreninin en başında yer alan konular olmuş oluyor. Yani bizim zaten zamanımızın büyük bir çoğunluğu bunlarla geçiyor. diyebilirim. O noktada
Kullanılan teknoloji anlamında soruyorum aslında. Yani sistemler entegre mi, izini kaybettiğiniz oluyor mu, mutabakat sağlamak, yani bizde üçlü mutabakat çok önemli. Bu noktada yavaş kaldığınız, zorlandığınız noktalar, kamusal olarak iyileşmesi gereken yönler varsa tam da bu işin merkezinde bir üniversitedeyiz. Bunu bir araştırma ve proje konusu yapabileceğimiz, sayın hocalarımızın önünde, huzurunda bunları paylaşıyoruz. Üniversite sanayi işbirliği için projeler not alabiliriz.
evet, ödemeler noktasında böyle bir sorun olmuyor. Fakat ihale süreçleriyle bu entegre yapabilirse, hale getirebilirse o noktada daha kolay bir takip sağlanabilir. Özellikle değişik ihale türleri var, doğrudan temin vesaire gibi. Bunların da sisteme dahil edilmesi sonucunda bir kaçak olma ihtimali düşecektir. Öyle bir açık olabilir şu an itibariyle ama ödeme noktasında bir açık olmaz. Çünkü bizde üçlü mutabakat zaten var. Yani yıllardan beri var. Kurulu var. Bundan dolayı burada bir problem olmaz. Ama ihale mevzuatını ödemeye entegre etmemiz gerekiyor. Özellikle doğrudan temin vesaire gibi, pazarlık gibi. Bunları katarsak bu noktada da bir sıkıntı olmayacağını düşünüyorum.
Teşekkürler.
Hocam teşekkür ediyorum. Alanım uluslararası ilişkiler, kusura bakmayın. Ekonomi alanı olmadığı için az önce küçük bir espri yaptım. Kusura bakmayın. Yani benim de kısa ve öz bir şekilde üniversitede hocayız. Bir vakıf üniversitesi, devlet üniversitesi. Kaynakların nasıl kullanılacağı ve üniversitenin nasıl daha iyi bir etkili bir yerde olma konusu sürekli düşündüğümüz bir konu. Yani belki de Türkiye'de ve Güney Afrika'da en önemli sorunlarından bir tanesi. Aslında imkan var, ekonomik imkanlar var ama bu imkanların doğru bir şekilde, stratejik bir şekilde kullanım konusunda sorunlar olduğunu görüyorum. Ben de I also have experience in South Africa, lived in South Africa for 5 years as a student and PhD student. My point is that how the financial, for example, or money can be used effectively for the productivity of the universities. For example, if a professor is employed by the university, he or she is employed correctly and in a good position. And also how economy or investment for the university is being used effectively and efficiently. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Halim Hocam.
Şimdi hocam iç denetimin mantalitesinde denetim yapacağınız konuları belirlerken makro risk değerlendirmesi yaparsınız. Yani burada biz denetim kaynağımızda kısıtlı olduğu için yani kamu kaynağı etkili, ekonomik ve verimli kullanmak açısından bir denetim kaynağı olarak denetçiyi de verimli kullanmak açısından risk düzeyi yüksek olan konularda biz denetime başlarız. Tabii makro risk değerlendirmesi yaparken risk kriterleri vardır. Bu risk kriterlerinden bir tanesi örneğin mevzuattaki değişiklik. Ondan sonra işte o işte parasal büyüklüğü, işte çalışan personel sayısı artı yapabiliriz. Şimdi mevzuattaki değişiklik en çok parasal konularda olur ve risk düzeyini yükseltir. Doğal olarak parasal işlemler risk düzeyi her zaman yüksek olan şeyler. Artı bir de insan unsuru var. Suistimal.
Evet. Yani
bu nedenle
teknoloji yardımıyla olan ve manuel yapılan dediğimizde bir anda asimetri oluşuyor.
Tabii şimdi dijitalleşme, suistimalleri ortaya çıkartmak ve açısından çok önemli bir araç. Yani düşünün bir bankada her gün milyonlarca işlem oluyordur. Şimdi siz müfettişsiniz veya iş denetçisiniz. O 1 milyon işlemi her gün kontrol edemezsiniz ki. Ama sistem onun error'unu veriyor. Ona göre müdahale ediyoruz. Dijitalleşme bu anlamda iyi. Ama bir diğer taraftan bizim mesleği de öldürüyor, o taraftan da kötü. Tabii,
Teşekkür ederiz.
şey olarak tabii şimdi üniversitedir veya işte ben İstanbul Büyükşehir Belediyesi'nde belediyedir veya bakanlıktır. Yani sonuçta parayı veren düdüğü çalar. Yani her şeyin temeli paraya geliyor. Bu nedenle mevcut kıt kaynak olan bu parayı en ideal şekilde kullanmamız lazım. Tabii buradaki kullanma yönetimin takdirindedir. Biz o stratejik amaç ve hedeflere ve politikalara ulaşmak açısından bu kaynaklar doğru kullanılmış mı? Biz buna bakıyoruz.
Evet. Çok
Doğru mu?
teşekkürler.
Ben teşekkür ederim.
Saygılar. Now it's time to invite our last valuable panelists and hocam, Bilal hocam.
Ses. Tamam. Sana veriyorum. Tamam. Çalışıyor.
Hocam, I am ready to assist you here.
Uh,
You're ready, program.
I think I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. Thank you. And I will be speaking about how to spend that money that we just talked about. And as a member of the host university, I'm really happy to be part of this launch event. And in line with the theme of this panel, continuous auditing for effective use of public resources, I want to focus more on a practical application, a local implementation example in Turkey, Turkey's new public sector austerity measures, or the state savings and efficiency plan, as I like to call it. And of course, I will be leveraging on the global growth and inflationary trends, role of public sector, their efficiency, all that perspective that was laid out by Professor Lawrence and the other colleagues. So about the Turkish experience, of course, well, first we need to make sure one thing at this point. Although we sometimes hear a lot of criticism about these Turkish austerity measures, given the size of public government resources in question here, even this type of incremental, small but continuous improvements, they are also huge innovations for the sizes of governments and their expenditures. And in particular, I will be talking about how to potentially achieve a rather continuous public resource efficiency within the scope of these recent Turkish austerity measures that we are talking about. And I'll be, if we have enough time, talking about the expenditure side, the income inflow side, the steering mechanisms, and the innovations in those aspects. And the new tax schemes that are talked about nowadays, how the government is planning to increase income and dealing with the informal economy, again, part of the popular discussion nowadays. Just to make sure one critical point here, these recent measures, they should rather, I would say, be read as austerity and efficiency, as well as transparency, accountability, sustainability in public sector aspects that we know. And considering the launch event of this CAPIA project, which, as I understand, CAPIA project, okay. My understanding is that it introduces a risk-based, sustainable, and AI-based audit approach for efficient resource utilization alongside the new developments in public sector. And I would say it seems like it could provide a good theoretical base for this practical Turkish experience. So about the Turkish austerity measures, the state saving and efficiency package that is ongoing right now, it is initially a three-year plan, a three-year austerity plan that the government is planning to, first of all, to deal with the relatively high inflation in Turkey, about 75% nowadays, and increase efficiency of public sector expenditures, efficiency of its resources. And it's planning to cut a wide range of public spendings, actually, and maybe not increase the minimum wage that is also being discussed nowadays. And certain public expenditures, they will be completely frozen. The recruitment for civil service, public services, they will also be limited. And in addition to the inflation, current account deficit, and the earthquake finances, the government is planning to reduce public spending and increase fiscal tightening, which is pretty much needed in addition to the past 1 year's monetary tightening. And it's trying to direct investment towards more productive areas, trying to strengthen its disinflation program to achieve price stability, which is very much needed nowadays in Turkey. And the state saving and efficiency package that we're talking about nowadays, it will be implemented partly by some circular ladders that we call genelgeler in Turkey. And some of these public spending cuts, they may require some legislative changes, which probably will be submitted to the parliament before the summer break. And just to show you more about these austerity measures, the government basically is, in addition to reducing the government spending and boosting efficiency, it's trying to prioritize essential investment projects, more efficient, more productive projects. And of course, there are some sectors that are exempt from these cuts, from these decreases, the health, security, defense sectors, and also the earthquake-related expenditures, digitalization, green transformation, agricultural exceptions. So the government is planning to keep focusing on the earthquake zones, green and digital transformation and related projects, and other railway and port projects related to or near to the industrial zones. And that type of exemptions, they are a reality. But apart from that, they're planning to direct investments toward more effective, productive areas, trying to accelerate the structural reforms and improving public finances. And part of it, of course, is digitalization, the AI-based, blockchain-based improvements that I'll talk about soon. So these...
I would like to ask another question to our masters here. Anybody in their audit universe, risk universe, including these issues, and change their plan to start field work immediately? Anybody?
Are these proposed measures or have they been passed through legislation?
They are proposed, yeah. Part of them, they are implemented. Part of them, they will need some legislative changes. But
perhaps the regulations are still being developed for them to adapt?
To in line with and be on time and give reasonable assurance. And
I see, okay.
yeah,
So
just preparing.
get them up to speed.
Yeah. Any meetings, any discussion, any preparation behind it?
okay, so
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
One of them, right? I mean, through this venue.
Yes, to create awareness, and if needed, we are ready to collaborate. Thank you.
Talk about the pros and cons. Anything missing about that, of course. So it seems like the package, this plan, it's primarily focusing on or trying to cut spendings related to transportation, building and construction, public employment, new recruitments especially, temporary overseas assignment costs, and energy and waste management is talked about a lot, as well as the communication expenses. And as we see here we have a summary projected cuts. For example, in representation and promotion expenditures, Turkish government is planning to have a 25% cut, and in investment spending, another 15% cut, and in about 10% cut in relatively bigger purchases of goods and services in public sector. But we'll see, of course, how things will work out looking forward. And just to make sure, the government is also not sure about the exact amount, but by the summer, they are also expecting to have some figures about that. But these figures, they may not be that huge, but it surely is a good start, a good kickoff. These austerity measures, this practical implication of hopefully your project, it is actually part of a decades-long austerity measures in Turkey. And for these year's austerity measures, the government is planning to have 100 to 150 billion Turkish lira saving, which is about 3 to 5%, 3 to 5 billion US dollar, I'm sorry. So this is basically their plan. But we talked about the long history, decades-long history, and we should also be sure about how it differs from the earlier examples. Of course, a few differences that we could talk about that are also widely discussed in media, their implementation and monitoring of these austerity measures. They will basically be controlled and monitored by Ministry of Treasury and Finance, and also the Strategies and Budget Presidency of Turkey. But in addition to that, these measures, they will also be enforced this time, and they will also bring forward some penalties and even fine mechanisms this time, and hopefully they will work out. And this is basically these differences or these implementation monitoring aspects. This is probably where the digitalization and AI, blockchain, and the continuity aspects, they will step in. And I'll try to talk about that in a few minutes again. And the critical things about these measures, this fiscal aspect of this saving package, a few aspects of that I should mention. First of these critical issues to contemplate for the Turkish case is the high inflation. Turkey is dealing with a relatively high inflation, about 75% nowadays. But that's not the only issue. We have a 5 to 6% budget deficit. And that is indeed a problem, because if you don't bring down that high budget deficit, that leads to relatively higher borrowing and then higher interest payments, and the cost will be much higher, which is another issue the developing economies are dealing with nowadays. And you need to increase the macro saving as well, which is another issue in Turkey and related to the relatively high current account deficit. The saving rate in Turkey, the aggregate saving rate is about 30%, not very, very bad, but the household saving rate is about 10%, and it's much lower than its European counterparts, which usually starts from 12%, and we need to raise it a little bit to at least 12, and in the medium term to 20% maybe. So there is still a lot to do in that sense, and also the huge earthquake reconstruction costs, which officially are estimated to be about 104 billion US dollar, and Turkey needs to work on that a lot. So for that also we need this type of austerity measures. It's another critical issue to contemplate looking forward. But of course, this type of measures, the austerity measures, this type of saving packages, they get a lot of criticism as well. Some part, it is really needed. And part of that is maybe too much. But the critical question is whether these measures are just some symbolic measures, whether they are just some goodwill gestures, or are they really some credible, down-to-earth, serious, coherent measures package that we should really pay attention to? And I would like to believe in the second option. And but of course, they should also be part of a series of major public spending cuts, austerity measures. They should be part of an extensive saving plan, and they should continue, is what I mean, looking forward, not just for a few years. And this type of limited budget oversights, and we talked about monitoring mechanism that will play in at this time, they have actually been long an issue. They have been debated a lot in the past. And that's why we have the criticism now about this package as well. And some further issues to underline. The sufficiency of these measures, whether they will be sufficient. Well, that's a good criticism, actually. But the exact figures, they will be clear in the next few months, at least. And we're still not sure about the macro and quantitative impacts of these measures, especially over the labor market and the real sector, real economic impacts. They have to be evaluated, analyzed more clearly. And the economic contraction, potential economic contraction, and new challenge, they may also arise. We have to be careful. And probably one of the good criticism is that the burden of this type of measures, austerity measures, they should not be just shared by the poor and the fixed income individuals. And it should be equally distributed between all the shareholders. And of course, the challenges that the governments in Turkey has faced in implementation in the past, that's another critical issue to bear in mind. But after talking about all those aspects, I would say the primary innovation or the value added here of these new measures, on the other hand, is the digitalization and AI that is incorporated into this process. So more specifically, we're talking about probably the most critical value added in these current measures, austerity measures. It is the digitalization aspects that are talked about, the innovation, the data-driven approach to increasing efficiency, productivity, the increasing efficiency of this austerity overall, and the digitalization, digital instruments that will be used in this process and use of the AI and other new technologies. It actually also seems to be necessary, particularly in a continuous auditing side, if we're talking about a continuous process of austerity looking forward, not just for a few years. And in the oversight, regulation, and coordination, I will say implementation and monitoring of these measures and the new penalties and the fine mechanism in cases of violation, for example, they will be very, very critical. But also the sustainable data governance and the blockchain-based new technologies, they could bring down the costs and increase efficiency, which the Turkish government is looking actually very much. So it will need this type of innovations. These aspects, they will be very, very critical in this process. And we need to pay more attention to use of AI in austerity, and actually Turkish government is also working on a program that I will show in the next slide. And we need to pay more attention on effective use of AI in both the austerity measures in general and also the accounting aspect of that. They will be very critical. The oversight and monitoring of the public sector payments, their expenditures, effective use of AI will be very, very important. And Turkish government, it is actually working on an AI-supported accounting and advanced analytical project. This is mainly for a better monitoring, warning, and transparency, accountability, and also the sustainability in the public sector in the medium to long run. And the AI-based approach that the Turkish government is working on is called AI-supported accounting and analytics projects. And this is basically an AI-driven system to monitor the spendings, to improve public budget efficiency, fiscal efficiency, with an AI-enabled accounting. That's how they call it. So overall, looking at this practical implication of the theoretical setup the CAPIA project has been working on, it seems like the Turkish case, it is actually, despite all the criticism, it is considering the size of all the public expenditures that we're talking about, it is a small, incremental, but if continues, it could be a very innovative and much needed process, I would say. And that was the whole story of this presentation.
Bilal Hocam, many thanks for sharing valuable information. And we come to the end of our session. And considering the time, instead of waiting for the last speaker to start asking questions, making it dynamic, we already asked you several questions and you contributed. And thank you very much for your valuable contributions. We hope to see you soon again in another session to improve our working conditions as public sector internal auditors, which is quite necessary for efficient use of public resources. And you are valuable. You will be adding value to your organizations, and we hope you achieve this target soon. And thank you very much for joining this session, and many thanks for your questions, contributions, and everything. And many thanks for Fatih Sultan Mehmet Vakıf University. They are innovative, supporting, and being responsible and showing the best practice for other universities with such a meaningful campus. We try to be part of this meaningful campus with our special costumes today. And Ilse and I, you see, like twins, to show our style. Thanks for our professors, their hospitality, and everybody contributing this such a fruitful panel session. Many thanks and kind regards.
Professor, we will have a small token ceremony. I would like to invite you in here, and I would like our dean to the stage to present the tokens.